Someone from heaven is trying to talk to you about a person who is leaving you forever. Stop everything you are doing right now, because what I am about to reveal to you in these next moments will shake the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about the person who is standing at the edge of your life, teetering on the precipice of departure. And I, Archangel Michael, commander of the heavenly hosts, warrior of divine truth, have been sent directly from the throne room of the Almighty to pierce through the veil that separates your earthly understanding from the celestial reality that is unfolding around you at this very second. And I need you to understand with every fiber of your being that someone in the heavenly realms has been trying desperately to break through the spiritual static that surrounds your consciousness, because there is a person in your life right now, someone whose face you know, whose voice echoes in your memories, whose presence has woven itself into the tapestry of your daily existence. And that person is making preparations to leave you forever, not temporarily, not for a season, but permanently, irrevocably, and the celestial alarm bells are ringing so loudly in the spirit realm that I have been dispatched with urgent divine authority to deliver this message before the door of opportunity slams shut with such finality that even heaven itself will not be able to pry it open again. Listen carefully, because time is collapsing around this situation like a closing fist, and every moment you hesitate, every second you dismiss what your spirit has been whispering to you in those quiet hours before dawn, every instant you push away that gnawing feeling in the pit of your stomach is bringing you closer to a moment of irreversible loss that will echo through your life for years to come. And I am here speaking with the full weight of divine authority to tell you that the heavenly Watchers, those ancient beings who stand in the presence of the Most High and observe the intricate threads of human relationships, have been witnessing the slow unraveling of the bond between you and this person, and they have seen something that you have not yet fully grasped. They have seen the decision crystallizing in the heart of someone you care about. They have watched as disappointment has calcified into determination, as hurt has transformed into resolve, as patience has finally exhausted itself and morphed into a quiet certainty that departure is the only path forward. The angels who have been assigned to guard and guide both you and this person have been sending signal after signal, dropping hint after hint, orchestrating circumstance after circumstance to wake you up to what is happening, but there is a thickness around your spiritual perception, a fog of denial or distraction, or perhaps just the mundane concerns of daily life that has prevented you from seeing clearly what those of us in the heavenly realms can see with perfect clarity, and that is why I have come with this message that carries the urgency of a divine alarm, because the window of intervention is closing, the season of grace is drawing to its conclusion, and soon, very soon, the choice that this person is making will solidify from a contemplation into an action, from a thought into an irreversible reality. Let me tell you what we have been observing from the celestial vantage point, because you need to understand that this departure is not happening suddenly or without warning, even though it may feel that way when the final moment arrives. No, this has been building like storm clouds gathering on a distant horizon, and those of us who dwell in eternal dimensions have watched the accumulation of every small wound, every moment of disconnect, every time you were too busy or too distracted or too certain of their permanent presence in your life, to truly see them, to truly hear the silent cries of their heart, to recognize the slow withdrawal that has been occurring in the spiritual and emotional space between you. And I speak to you now not to condemn but to awaken, not to accuse but to alert you to a reality that is unfolding whether you acknowledge it or not. This person whose departure looms like a shadow across your future has been wrestling with their decision, and heaven has witnessed every moment of their internal struggle. We have seen them late at night staring into the darkness, wondering if they matter to you, if you truly see them, if their presence in your life is valued or merely tolerated. We have watched them reach out in ways both large and small, only to have those gestures go unnoticed or unappreciated. We have observed them hoping and hoping that something would change, that you would wake up, that the relationship would transform into what they have been longing for it to become, but disappointment has been their constant companion, and now, after countless attempts and repeated patterns and accumulated hurts, they have arrived at a conclusion that is hardening like concrete with each passing day. The divine messengers have been whispering to your spirit, trying to make you sense the urgency of this moment, trying to create that uncomfortable feeling that something is not right, trying to prompt you to reach out, to have that conversation, to ask those questions, to truly engage with this person before it becomes too late. But there is an enemy of your soul who benefits from your blindness, who whispers countermessages of complacency and assumption, who tells you that everything is fine, that this person will always be there, that you have unlimited time to address whatever issues might exist. And this deceiver knows that if he can keep you asleep just a little bit longer, the opportunity for restoration will slip through your fingers like water. I am sent with divine authority to rip away that veil of deception right now, because there is so much at stake here, more than you realize. This is not just about losing someone from your daily life. This is about the derailment of divine purposes that were meant to be accomplished through your connection. This is about the fracturing of something that heaven invested in. This is about the ripple effects that will spread out from this departure into areas of your life you cannot yet foresee. And I need you to understand with crystal clarity that the spiritual realm is not neutral about what is happening. We have been actively trying to prevent this separation because we can see the plans and purposes that are at risk of being thwarted. Now pay close attention, because what I am about to reveal to you requires you to set aside your ego, your defensiveness, your justifications, and your excuses, and truly hear the heart of heaven speaking to you through me. This person who is preparing to leave you has been enduring a form of emotional or relational starvation that you have not recognized. They have needed something from you that you have not been providing. And I do not speak necessarily of material things or grand gestures. Often what people hunger for most deeply is the simple nourishment of being truly seen, truly heard, truly valued, truly prioritized, and somewhere along the journey of your relationship, whether through your own woundedness or distraction or self-absorption or simply not understanding their needs, you stopped providing that nourishment, or perhaps you never provided it consistently to begin with, and they have been withering in ways that were invisible to your natural eyes but blazingly obvious to those of us who see beyond the surface into the deep places of the human heart. The celestial realm has watched as they made excuses for you, as they convinced themselves that your lack of attention or affection or engagement was just a temporary phase, as they told themselves that things would get better, that you would eventually notice, that the relationship would evolve into something more mutually satisfying. And heaven has admired their patience even as we have grieved watching them settle for breadcrumbs when they deserved a feast, and there have been moments. Specific moments that the angelic recorders have noted in the heavenly chronicles, moments when they almost walked away before, moments when they stood on the edge of departure, and something, some small gesture or word or circumstance, gave them just enough hope to stay a little longer, but each time they stayed and nothing fundamentally changed, another layer of hope eroded. Another piece of their capacity to believe in the relationship deteriorated, and now they have arrived at a place where hope has been replaced by resignation, where longing has transformed into acceptance that this is simply not going to be what they needed it to be. I need you to hear this with spiritual ears because time is of the essence, and I am speaking with the urgency of someone who can see what you cannot see. The decision in their heart has reached approximately 90% certainty, which means there is still a 10% opening. Still a sliver of possibility, still a narrow window through which redemption might enter if you act decisively and genuinely and immediately. But that window is closing with each rotation of the earth, with each rising and setting of the sun, and soon, perhaps within days or weeks rather than months, their internal decision will reach 100%. And when it does, there will be a shift in the spiritual realm, a sealing of their resolve that will make reversal nearly impossible because heaven itself honors the free will choices of human hearts, even when those choices lead to painful outcomes. The guardian angels assigned to both of you have been in constant communication with the throne room, filing reports, requesting additional grace, asking for more time, pleading for divine intervention that might create an awakening in you before it is too late, and it is in response to their petitions that I have been sent with this message because the mercy of heaven is so great that even now, even at this late hour, even with the situation as critical as it is, there is still a possibility for transformation if you will wake up and engage with the reality of what is happening rather than continuing to sleepwalk through a relationship that is on life support. Let me pierce through any confusion you might have about who this person is because your spirit knows, even if your conscious mind is trying to sort through the possibilities. There is someone specific that came to mind the moment you began receiving this message, someone about whom you have had those nagging thoughts lately, someone whose behavior has perhaps seemed slightly different in recent weeks or months, someone who may have become quieter or more distant or less available, or perhaps they have been acting completely normal on the surface while the tectonic plates of their inner world have been shifting underneath in ways you have not detected, and the fact that their name or face has appeared in your consciousness as you hear these words is not coincidental. That is the Holy Spirit bearing witness with your spirit that this message is specifically for you about this specific person. The danger you face right now is the temptation to dismiss this warning as dramatic or exaggerated or not applicable to your situation, and I can tell you from the vantage point of one who serves in the courts of heaven that this is exactly the kind of spiritual pride that has led countless people to catastrophic loss. The enemy of your soul would love nothing more than for you to finish receiving this message and then go right back to your comfortable assumptions, telling yourself that surely your situation is not that serious. Surely this person would communicate if they were really planning to leave. Surely you would know if things were that bad. But this is precisely the deception that has brought you to this critical juncture in the first place. This tendency to assume rather than to investigate, to presume rather than to inquire, to coast on past momentum rather than to actively invest in the present reality of the relationship. I speak to you now with the combined authority of heaven and the compassion of divine love, because God Himself is not willing that any good connection should be severed without every possible opportunity for redemption being extended, and that is why you are hearing these words right now. That is why this message has found its way to you at this exact moment in time, because there is still a sliver of opportunity. Still a narrow path through which restoration might walk if you will humble yourself and take immediate action, not action born from panic or manipulation, but genuine action rooted in authentic transformation and sincere repentance for whatever ways you have failed to value and nurture this person properly. Type, "Thank you, Lord, for keeping me," if God is the reason you're still standing. The heavenly perspective sees things in their true proportion, and from where I stand, I can tell you that many of the things you have been prioritizing above this relationship are going to prove to be absolutely meaningless when you are lying awake at night in the aftermath of their departure, wondering how you missed the signs, kicking yourself for not paying attention, replaying moments when you chose something else over spending time with them or truly engaging with them or demonstrating through actions and not just words that they mattered to you. And I am sent to tell you right now that you still have a chance to avoid that future of regret, but only if you act immediately, only if you wake up from your slumber, only if you recognize that the person you have been taking for granted is making concrete plans in their mind and heart to exit your life permanently. Let me tell you what permanent means in this context, because I do not think you have fully grasped the weight of it. Permanent means that all the future moments you were vaguely assuming you would share with this person will never happen. Permanent means that the laughter and companionship and connection and shared experiences will be severed. Permanent means that there will be a before and an after in your life story, and you will spend years in the after portion wishing you had paid more attention during the before. Permanent means that someone else might step into the place you vacated through your negligence. Permanent means that you will see this person living their life without you in it, and you will know that you had the chance to prevent it and you let that chance slip away. Permanent means that the divine purposes and plans that required your partnership with this person will have to be either abandoned or significantly altered. Permanent means a wound in your heart that time may dull but never fully heal, because you will always know that you had the power to choose differently. The angels who minister to broken hearts are preparing themselves for what they know may be coming, because they have seen this pattern play out so many times in human relationships. They have watched people ignore warning after warning until suddenly they are drowning in the consequences of their inattention. And then these mighty celestial beings who are warriors in the spirit realm find themselves in the tender role of comforters, sitting with devastated humans who are choking on regret, trying to minister hope into situations where foolish choices have created unnecessary suffering, and while heaven's mercy is indeed infinite and God can bring redemption even from the ashes of our failures, there are some losses that simply did not need to happen, some departures that could have been prevented if only someone had woken up in time to the reality of what was occurring. I am speaking to you with urgency because you are still in the prevention zone. You have not yet crossed over into the consequence zone, but you are standing on the border and the person you care about has one foot already over the line and is preparing to bring the other foot across, and once they fully cross into the decision to leave, once they complete that internal journey from contemplating departure to committing to departure, there is a spiritual dynamic that occurs where their heart begins to seal itself off from you, to protect itself from further hurt, to emotionally and spiritually divest from the connection in preparation for the physical separation that they know is coming. Heaven has been orchestrating circumstances trying to create the conditions for a breakthrough conversation between you and this person. There have been openings, moments when the path was clear for honest dialogue, times when if you had just asked the right question or created the space for vulnerable sharing, the truth might have come flooding out, but those moments passed unused, those opportunities were missed. And with each missed opportunity, this person's resolve has hardened a little more. Their belief in the possibility of things changing has eroded a little further, their emotional investment in trying to make the relationship work has diminished incrementally, and now you are approaching a point of no return unless there is dramatic intervention. What I am about to tell you now requires you to set aside any defensive reactions and truly search your own heart with brutal honesty, because the heavenly court has witnessed your role in bringing this situation to its current critical state. We have observed the ways you have been emotionally unavailable or physically absent or mentally distracted. We have noted the times when this person tried to share something important with you and you gave them half of your attention while the other half remained focused on your phone or your own thoughts or whatever else seemed more immediately pressing to you. We have recorded the occasions when they reached out for connection and you responded with dismissiveness or irritation or a brush-off that communicated they were an interruption rather than a priority. The spiritual ledgers of heaven are not kept for the purpose of condemnation but for the purpose of truth, because transformation cannot occur without honest acknowledgement of what has actually been happening, and right now you need the gift of seeing yourself and your behavior through heaven's eyes so that you can understand why this person has arrived at the point of departure. They are not leaving because they are unreasonable or demanding or high maintenance. They are leaving because staying has become too painful, because feeling unseen and undervalued and taken for granted has worn away at their soul until they have concluded that being alone would actually hurt less than remaining in a relationship where they do not feel genuinely cherished. I speak these hard truths with compassion because my purpose is not to wound you but to wake you up, and sometimes waking up requires a splash of cold water in the face, a jolt to the system that breaks through the comfortable numbness that has allowed you to drift along assuming everything was fine when in reality the foundation has been cracking underneath you for quite some time. And the person who is preparing to leave has been watching those cracks widen and has been trying to point them out to you in various ways, some direct and some subtle, but you have not responded with the level of attention and concern and corrective action that the situation has required. Let me tell you what the heavenly observers have noticed about the recent trajectory of this relationship, because you need to understand the pattern that has been unfolding. There has been a gradual withdrawal happening. Perhaps you have noticed it on some level but explained it away as them being busy or going through something personal or just needing space, and while those things might have been partially true, the deeper truth is that they have been pulling back because they have been hurt one too many times, disappointed one too many times, left feeling alone in the relationship one too many times, and now their withdrawal is not just a temporary emotional protection, it is a rehearsal for permanent departure. They are practicing what it will feel like to not have you in their life anymore. They are testing their own resilience, measuring whether they can stand on their own, preparing themselves psychologically and emotionally for the transition they know is coming. The divine mandate that I carry in delivering this message to you is to create one last opportunity for awakening before the final curtain falls on what could have been, and I need you to understand that heaven is not neutral about human relationships. God Himself is a relational being. The Trinity is an eternal relationship of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when you were created in the image of this relational God, you were hardwired for connection, and the connections in your life are not random accidents but divine appointments with purpose and meaning, and when those connections are threatened or severed unnecessarily, it grieves the heart of heaven, because we know that you are losing not just a person but a part of the destiny that was meant to be walked in partnership. Now I need to address something that may be rising in your mind as you receive this message. You may be thinking that if this person truly cared about you, or if the relationship was really meant to be, they would communicate directly with you about their feelings rather than making plans to leave. And while there is some merit to the idea that healthy relationships require open communication, you need to understand that many times people reach the point of departure precisely because they have tried to communicate and their attempts have been met with dismissiveness or defensiveness or minimal response. They have dropped hints that went unnoticed, they have expressed concerns that were brushed aside, they have tried to initiate deeper conversations that never gained traction, and after enough failed attempts to bridge the gap, they stop trying and start planning their exit instead. The spiritual reality is that you have likely received far more communication about the problems in this relationship than you have recognized, but it came in forms you did not perceive as urgent, in tones you did not interpret as serious, in moments you treated as minor inconveniences rather than major warnings. And now that person has gone quiet about their discontent because they have shifted from hoping you will change to accepting that you will not, and that shift is one of the most dangerous transitions that can occur in a relationship because it represents the death of expectation, and when someone stops expecting anything from you, when they stop hoping you will be different, when they release their grip on the possibility that things might improve, they have entered the mental and emotional space where departure becomes not just possible but probable and then finally inevitable. I am calling you right now with the authority of an archangel and the compassion of a divine messenger to wake up before inevitable becomes actual, before the internal decision becomes external action, before the plans that are being made in secret become the reality that unfolds before your shocked and unprepared eyes. And I am telling you that you have a small window, a narrow opportunity, a brief season of grace in which you can still intervene, still have the conversation, still make the changes, still demonstrate through consistent action over time that you have finally understood what this person needs and you are committed to becoming the kind of person who can meet those needs. But I must warn you that if your response to this message is to make some grand gesture or deliver some passionate speech without any genuine intention of sustained transformation, you will only make things worse, because this person has had enough of empty words and temporary improvements that last a few days or weeks before you slide back into old patterns. They need to see authentic change maintained over time. They need to experience a fundamental shift in how you prioritize them and engage with them and value them, and anything less than that will only confirm to them that they are making the right decision in leaving because you are not truly capable of giving them what they need. The heavenly hosts are watching this situation with intense interest because there is much at stake beyond what you can see. There are spiritual assignments connected to your partnership with this person. There are divine purposes that were meant to flow through your connection. There are people you were meant to impact together. There are plans that the enemy of your soul would love to derail by causing this separation. And so the battle in the unseen realm has been fierce, with angels fighting to preserve what demons have been working to destroy. And right now the outcome hangs in the balance, waiting on your response to this message, waiting to see if you will wake up or continue sleeping, waiting to see if you will act or remain passive, waiting to see if you truly understand the gravity of what is about to be lost. Let me paint a picture for you of what your life will look like if you fail to act and this person follows through with their departure. Because sometimes we need to see the future consequences clearly in order to be motivated to take present action. You will go through an initial phase of shock when they finally tell you they are leaving. You will not be able to believe it is really happening even though I am telling you right now that it is coming. You will scramble to convince them to stay, making promises and commitments that you should have been making and keeping all along, but by then their heart will have become hardened against your pleas because they will have learned not to trust your words without the evidence of sustained changed behavior, and they will follow through with their departure despite your last-minute efforts because they will know from experience that your crisis response changes never last once the crisis has passed. Then you will enter a period of intense regret where you replay your time with this person like a movie in your mind, seeing with painful clarity all the moments you took for granted, all the opportunities you missed, all the times you chose something else over them, all the ways you failed to demonstrate that they were valuable to you, and the weight of that regret will be crushing because you will know that you were warned. You will remember this very message and you will realize that you had the chance to prevent this loss and you let that chance slip through your fingers, and that knowledge will make the pain even more acute because there is a special kind of suffering that comes from knowing that your loss was preventable, that you did not have to live in this reality of separation. That you chose it through your inaction and negligence even though choice implies a much more conscious decision-making process than the mindless drifting that actually characterized your behavior. After the initial shock and regret, you will move into a phase of rationalization where you will try to convince yourself that maybe this was for the best, maybe you were not really compatible anyway. Maybe they were too demanding or too sensitive or too whatever label you need to attach in order to make their departure seem less like your failure and more like a natural incompatibility. And heaven will grieve watching you construct these false narratives because we know the truth, we know that what was lost did not have to be lost. We know that with genuine effort and authentic transformation you could have built something beautiful with this person, but you will need these rationalizations to protect your ego from the full weight of your culpability. And so you will tell yourself stories that make you feel better in the short term while robbing you of the lessons that could have been learned from honestly acknowledging your role in the relationship's demise. And then years will pass and you will think you have moved on and healed, but occasionally you will see or hear something that reminds you of this person, or you will lie awake at night and your mind will drift back to what could have been, and there will be a persistent ache, a sense of unfinished business. A road not taken quality to your memories that will haunt you precisely because you will always know deep down that you had the power to write a different ending to this story, and no amount of time or distance or new relationships will completely erase that knowledge. It will be part of your life narrative forever, a chapter titled, "The Person I Lost Because I Did Not Pay Attention Until It Was Too Late." I am painting this picture not to torture you but to motivate you, because the future I just described is not yet set in stone. It is only one possible timeline, and there is still another timeline available to you if you will act decisively and genuinely starting right now in this moment. In this timeline you humble yourself and you have an honest conversation with this person where you acknowledge that you have not been giving them what they need. You do not make excuses or get defensive, you simply own your failures and you ask them directly if there is still a chance to repair what has been damaged, and you tell them that you finally understand the seriousness of the situation and you are committed to making real and lasting changes. In this alternative timeline, you follow up your words with consistent action. You prove over time through your behavior that you meant what you said. You prioritize this person in ways you have not done before. You become attentive to their needs and responsive to their communication and intentional about building the kind of connection they have been longing for. And slowly, incrementally, you watch as the walls they had been building in preparation for departure start to come down, as hope begins to flicker again in their heart, as they start to believe that maybe, just maybe, you have finally understood and things really can be different this time. This is the timeline that heaven is rooting for. This is the outcome that the angels assigned to your situation are fighting for in the spiritual realm. This is why I have been sent with this urgent message to wake you up before the window of opportunity slams shut. Because redemption is still possible but only if you act now, only if you take this warning seriously, only if you recognize that the alarm bells ringing in your spirit are not false alarms but accurate warnings of genuine danger. That requires immediate response. I need you to understand that the person who is planning to leave you is not doing so lightly or easily, even though they may have reached a place of resolution about their decision. It has cost them something to get to this point. There has been grief and inner conflict and wrestling and hoping against hope that somehow things would change without them having to take the painful step of departure. And part of them would still love to discover that leaving is not necessary, that you have finally woken up, that transformation is truly occurring, but their self-protection mechanisms are strong now because they have been hurt too many times, and so even if you do respond appropriately to this message, you will need to be patient and consistent in demonstrating change because they will not immediately trust that your transformation is genuine. The divine perspective sees all sides of this situation. We see your heart and your struggles and your own wounds that have contributed to your relational failings. We see this other person's heart and their pain and their journey toward the decision to leave. We see the enemy's schemes to destroy what God meant for good, and we see the potential for redemption if the right choices are made at this critical juncture. And so I speak to you not as a judge pronouncing condemnation but as a messenger carrying both warning and hope, warning that you are in genuine danger of catastrophic loss, and hope that if you will wake up now there is still a possibility of redemption. The spiritual realm is holding its breath waiting to see what you will do with this message. Will you dismiss it as dramatic or not applicable to your specific situation? Will you acknowledge its truth but fail to take action? Will you make some temporary effort that fades after a few days or weeks? Or will you allow these words to penetrate deep into your heart and catalyze genuine transformation that is sustained over time? The angels who have been fighting for your relationship cannot force you to make the right choice. They can only create opportunities and deliver messages and orchestrate circumstances that make the truth undeniable. But you have free will and you will ultimately decide whether this person remains in your life or exits from it forever. I must tell you plainly that from heaven's vantage point, if you do not respond immediately and genuinely to this warning, this person will be gone from your life within a relatively short period of time. The timeline is not exact because human free will introduces variables that make precise prediction impossible, but we are talking about weeks or months, not years. The decision has progressed too far. Their resolve has solidified too much. Their hope has depleted too completely for this to drag on indefinitely. There will be a moment in the near future when they inform you of their decision, or perhaps they will simply begin to fade from your life more and more until one day you realize they are functionally already gone, and you will be left standing in the wreckage wondering how it came to this when I am telling you right now exactly how it has come to this and exactly what you need to do to prevent the final collapse. The compassion of heaven is so great that even now, even at this late hour, even with the situation as critical as it has become, mercy is still extended, an opportunity is still offered, a path toward restoration is still illuminated, but you must walk that path, you must seize the opportunity, you must respond to the mercy with action and not just good intentions. Because the road to relational destruction is paved with good intentions that never materialized into changed behavior, and this person has had enough of intentions. They need to see actions. They need to experience transformation. They need to be convinced through your sustained consistency over time that you have finally understood what they have been trying to tell you in 1,000 different ways. Let me speak directly to some of the obstacles that might prevent you from responding appropriately to this message. First, there is pride, the part of you that does not want to admit that you have been wrong or insufficient or neglectful. Pride will tell you that if this person cannot accept you as you are, then maybe they are the problem. But I am here as a messenger from the throne room of God to tell you that while acceptance is important in relationships, growth and adaptation and meeting each other's needs are equally important, and if you have been consistently failing to meet legitimate relational needs because you have been too prideful to acknowledge and address your shortcomings, then your pride is going to cost you this relationship. Second, there is fear, the fear of vulnerability that comes with honest conversation, the fear of discovering just how hurt this person has been by your behavior, the fear of making promises that you are not sure you can keep, the fear of the awkwardness and discomfort that come with addressing relational problems directly. But I tell you that the temporary discomfort of honest confrontation of your relational issues is infinitely preferable to the permanent pain of loss through inaction. Feel the fear and have the conversation anyway. Embrace the vulnerability and take the risk anyway, because the alternative is to lose this person forever and spend years wishing you had been brave enough to be uncomfortable for a little while in order to save something precious. Third, there is distraction, the busyness of your life that has contributed to this problem in the first place. You are about to tell yourself that you will deal with this, but first you need to handle these other pressing matters, and I am here to tell you with divine authority that nothing in your life right now is more pressing than addressing this situation. Nothing is more important than having this conversation. Nothing is more urgent than beginning the process of transformation that might yet save this relationship. The tyranny of the urgent has been one of your greatest enemies throughout this relational journey, always allowing immediate demands to crowd out the important investment in connection with this person, and if you continue in that pattern even after receiving this message, you will deserve the loss that is coming because you will have demonstrated through your choices that despite the warning, despite the clarity, despite the divine intervention of this message, you still do not understand what truly matters. Comment, God is right here with me, if you know He's never abandoned you.